My 21-year-old brother, Andrew, stole my debit card while I slept and blew $9,000 on frivolities. My mother, Sharon, defended him, saying he was just a kid. I didn't argue, so I simply called the estate lawyer and set a trap they never saw coming. The account he drained wasn't mine, it was the one that would cost him his $250,000 inheritance. This is where the story truly begins, and you won't want to miss what happens. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. The flu had settled into my bones with a vengeance. For 2 days, I'd been a miserable heap on my sofa, cocooned in blankets, surviving on tea and grainy daytime television. At 29, I rarely got sick, but when I did, the world stopped. My job as a university archivist required meticulous focus, something impossible when my head felt like it was stuffed with cotton. I'd emailed my department, taken the week off, and surrendered to the fever. It was in this vulnerable, half-lucid state that the first text message alert chimed from my phone on the coffee table. I ignored it. Then it chimed again, and again. A rapid, insistent ding-ding-ding that cut through my feverish haze. With a groan, I leaned over, my muscles screaming in protest. The screen was a blinding wall of notifications from my bank. Alert! Your debit card has been used for a purchase of $2,450 at Solo Luxury Sneakers. Alert! Your debit card has been used for a purchase of $1,899 at Apple Store. Alert! Your debit card has been used for a purchase of $745 at Vibe Electronics. Alert! Your debit card. The list went on. My heart hammered against my ribs, a sudden, cold dread washing away the flu's heat. I fumbled to open the banking app, my fingers trembling. The balance, which should have been just over $250,000, was now $241,000 and change. In the span of about 90 minutes, while I was asleep, someone had siphoned nearly $9,000. I knew with a certainty that left me breathless who it was. I pulled myself off the couch and stumbled into my bedroom, my bare feet cold on the hardwood floor. My purse was on the dresser. I opened it, my movements frantic, and pawed through the contents. My personal debit card was there. My credit cards were there, but one card was missing. The simple, navy blue debit card linked to the GM Legacy Trust. The one I kept in a separate, hidden flap. The one that should never, ever be used. The room spun. This wasn't just theft, it was a catastrophe. I limped back to the living room and collapsed onto the sofa, my breath coming in short, sharp gasps. Just then, my phone rang. It was my mother, Sharon. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the decline button, but I knew I had to answer. "Jennifer, honey, how are you feeling?" Her voice was breezy, overly cheerful. It was the voice she used when she was about to ask for something, or, as I was learning, when she was covering for someone. "Mom," I managed, my voice a dry croak. "Someone stole my card. Someone stole the trust fund card." There was a half-second of silence, a tiny vacuum of static. "Oh, goodness, stolen? Are you sure? Maybe you just misplaced it." "It was used, Mom. $9,000 are gone, from that account." "9? Oh my," she fluttered. "Well, don't you worry your sick little head about it. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. Listen, the reason I'm calling is that Andrew is going to swing by. He's got a surprise for you. He's so thoughtful, just wanted to cheer his big sister up." The cold dread in my chest solidified into a block of ice. "He's coming here." "He's just pulling up now. I'll let you go. Feel better, sweetie." The line clicked dead. I stared at the phone. A surprise. Not even 5 minutes later, a key scraped in my apartment lock. Andrew, my 21-year-old brother, let himself in, a gust of cold air following him. He was wearing a brand-new, blindingly white designer hoodie, and in his hands he held a small paper bag. "Hey, Jen," he said, flashing a $1,000,000 smile that he hadn't paid for. "Heard you were sick. Brought you some of that fancy soup you like." He tossed the bag onto the coffee table, next to the phone still glowing with fraud alerts. He was vibrating with a wired, frantic energy, his eyes darting around the room, landing on everything but me. He was wearing new sneakers, too. Ridiculously expensive ones, the kind that cost more than my monthly rent. "Where did you get that card, Andrew?" I asked. My voice was quiet, but it cut through his manufactured cheer. He froze, his smile faltering. "What card? What are you talking about?" "The debit card, from my purse. The one you used to buy that hoodie and those sneakers, and whatever is in the new vibe bag I see peeking out of your backpack." His face, so open and charming a second ago, hardened into a petulant mask. "I don't know what you're talking about," he scoffed. "I used my own money. My crypto investments paid off." "Your crypto investments," I repeated flatly. "Andrew, I have the alerts, at 2 o'clock this morning. You came in here while I was sick and asleep and you stole from me." "Stole? That's a strong word, Jen," he said, crossing his arms. He was trying to look intimidating, but he just looked like a child playing dress-up in clothes he couldn't afford. "I borrowed it. I was going to pay you back." Pay me back $9,000. With what, Andrew? Your imaginary crypto." "It's not my fault you just have all this money sitting around." He suddenly exploded, his voice cracking. "You're an archivist, you don't even do anything. You just sit on that pile of cash Grandma left you. It's not fair. I actually have a plan. I'm building a brand." He was shouting now, his face red. He genuinely believed his own entitlement. He thought he was the victim. He thought he had stolen my money. The profound, staggering ignorance of his actions, of the line he had just crossed, left me speechless. I just stared at him, the fever, the betrayal, and the sheer magnitude of the disaster crashing over me. The trust, the lawyer, the clause, he had no idea what he had done. And in that moment, I knew I wasn't going to argue with him. I wasn't going to scream. He wanted me to treat this like a sibling squabble. He wanted our mother to swoop in and smooth it over, to tell me to be nice and share. I leaned back into the sofa cushions, my body aching, but my mind suddenly, terrifyingly clear. "Get out, Andrew," I whispered. "What, Jen, don't be like that. Get out of my apartment and leave the soup." He stared at me, shocked by my coldness. He tried to muster one more protest, saw the look in my eyes, and snapped his mouth shut. He grabbed his backpack, the vibe bag spilling open to reveal a new iPhone box, and slammed the door behind him. I sat in the ringing silence for a full minute, the smell of his expensive new cologne hanging in the air. Then I picked up my phone, my fingers no longer trembling, and scrolled past the bank alerts. I found the number I was looking for. Mr. Harrison, our grandmother's estate attorney. Andrew thought he had stolen $9,000 from his sister. He had no idea he had just forfeited $250,000. The betrayal was worse than the diagnosis itself. The hours after Andrew left were a blur of adrenaline and sickness. The fever spiked again, but this time it felt different. It was a cold, clarifying anger that burned away the mental fog. I made 2 phone calls. The first was to the bank, to report the card stolen and have it immediately frozen. The woman on the fraud protection line was sympathetic, her voice dripping with concern. "Oh, you poor thing, $9,000 is a nightmare. We'll start an investigation right away." Since it was used with a PIN, it might be difficult. Was it a family member? "Yes," I said, my voice hollow. "It was, but I don't want to press charges, I just need the account locked. Permanently." I was lying, of course. I knew the PIN. I had given it to Andrew years ago in a moment of misplaced trust. "Just in case of an absolute emergency, Andy," I had told him, "if you can't reach me and you or Mom are in the hospital." I'd even written it down and tucked it in his wallet, a wallet I had bought him. The thought of him, sick with the flu, sneaking into my apartment at 2 a.m., using my key, tiptoeing into my room, and carefully extracting that card from my purse. It made me want to be sick for an entirely different reason. My second call was to Mr. Harrison. His secretary picked up. "Harrison and Associates, how may I help you?" "I need to speak with Mr. Harrison," I said, my voice stronger now. "It's Jennifer regarding the GM Legacy Trust. There's been a development." Mr. Harrison, a man who had known my grandmother for 40 years, was on the line in under 30 seconds. He was all business, his sharp, precise voice a comfort. "Jennifer, you sound terrible. Are you all right?" "I have the flu, Mr. Harrison, but that's not it. I need to report an unauthorized withdrawal from the trust by the beneficiary." There was a heavy sigh on the other end of the line. "Andrew," he stated, "it wasn't a question." "Yes, $9,000 in a single night. Designer clothes, electronics. Frivolous by any definition." "I see," Mr. Harrison said. The temperature of the call dropped 10 degrees. "Jennifer, you know what this means. Your grandmother was specific. She was a hawk." "I know what it means," I said, staring at the wall. "I'm looking at the trust document right now. I've been the trustee for 2 years and I've guarded this thing. I've sat through Mom's hints and Andrew's tantrums, and he just did it." "The forfeiture clause," Mr. Harrison said gravely. "Section 4, subsection C. Any fraudulent, unauthorized, or frivolous withdrawal made by the beneficiary, Andrew, before the age of 30, shall immediately and irrevocably void his entire claim to the trust principal." She made me read it to him and Sharon when the will was executed. They both signed a document stating they understood it. "They understood it," I agreed, "but they never believed it. They thought it was a bluff. They thought I was just being selfish." "They had forgotten one crucial thing, Jennifer," Mr. Harrison said, his voice hardening. "They forgot your grandmother never bluffed, and they forgot that you, as trustee, are legally bound not to your family, but to the trust itself. You have a fiduciary duty to execute her will, exactly as written." "What do I do now?" I asked. "You do nothing. You rest. You get over the flu. I, in the meantime, will be filing a petition with the probate court to notify them of the breach of trust. I will subpoena the bank records and the store receipts, which will be easy to get. Then, we schedule a meeting. With you, with Andrew, and with your mother." He paused. "I want you to be prepared, Jennifer. They will not react well." "I know," I said. "Thank you, Mr. Harrison." I hung up and fell back against the cushions. They had forgotten. They had forgotten who my grandmother was. They thought she was just a sweet old lady who left them some money. They forgot she was the woman who built a real estate empire from nothing, who could spot a liar from a mile away, and who loved her family but was not blind to their flaws. And they had definitely forgotten that I was her granddaughter. The rest of the day was quiet. My phone buzzed with texts from my mother. "Andrew is very upset. You really hurt his feelings, Jennifer." Followed by, "He said he was going to pay you back. You know how he is with his projects. You should be more supportive." And finally, "He's just a kid, Jen. You have so much and he has nothing. You need to stop overreacting and call him." I read each message, my thumb tracing the screen, and I felt nothing. The emotional tap I had spent my entire life leaving open for them, the one that poured out empathy, excuses, and my own savings to cover their emergencies, had just run dry. He's just a kid. A 21-year-old kid who had just committed grand larceny. My mother, Sharon, was the architect of this. Andrew was just her masterpiece of entitlement. I thought back to every time she'd borrowed a few $100s from me to cover his credit card bill. Every time she'd convinced me to co-sign a lease he'd eventually break. "He just needs a little help getting on his feet, honey. It's so much harder for young men these days." This time was different. I wasn't going to call. I wasn't going to smooth things over. I was going to follow the instructions of the trust. I was going to do my duty. They thought I was just the quiet, mousy older sister, the boring archivist. They thought I was weak. But they had forgotten one crucial thing. An archivist knows exactly where every document is, understands every binding, and, above all, respects the permanent, unchangeable nature of the written word. My grandmother, Grace, was the bedrock of my life. While my mother, Sharon, was a whirlwind of emotional drama and financial instability, Grace was the calm, steady center. After my father left, Sharon moved us in with Grace for just a few months. We never left. Grace's house, a sturdy Victorian she'd bought with her own money, became my sanctuary. She was the one who instilled in me a love of history, of books, of the quiet power of facts. She taught me to be meticulous, to be responsible, and to be wary of charm without substance. Charm is cheap, Jennifer, she'd say, peering at me over her glasses. But integrity, that's priceless. And your mother buys charm on credit. Grace saw Sharon's enablement of Andrew from the day he was born. He was the boy, the do-over, the golden child. While I was given chores and expected to get a part-time job at 16, Andrew was given, well, anything he wanted. When he broke a neighbor's window, Sharon told them I must have distracted him. When he failed his classes, Sharon blamed the teachers. When he got his first credit card and maxed it out in a week, Sharon came to me, weeping, begging me to cover it so his future wouldn't be ruined. I was 23, working my first job, and I drained my savings to pay for his designer jeans and video games. "You're the responsible one, Jen," Sharon would say, as if it were a compliment. "You're my rock." But a rock is just something to stand on. Eventually, it gets worn down. My grandmother saw it all, and she tried to protect me. She paid for my university education directly, sending the tuition checks straight to the bursar's office so Sharon couldn't borrow a single cent. And when she got sick, she called me and Mr. Harrison to her bedside. Not Sharon, not Andrew, me. "It's all in the true. Sent Jennifer," she'd whispered, her hand frail in mine. $250,000 for Andrew. But you, my dear, are the trustee. You are the dragon at the gate. He cannot touch a penny until he is 30, unless it is for verified educational expenses or a down payment on a primary residence. And you, and only you, approve the withdrawal." "Grandma, that's too much responsibility," I'd stammered. "No," she said, her voice suddenly strong. "It's the perfect amount of responsibility for you, and it's the only way he might learn. Your mother will try to wheedle it out of you. He will try to guilt you. Do not let them. The documents are your shield. Use them." And then she'd given me a weak, sly smile. "And read section 4C very carefully, dear. It's my little insurance policy. Against them." She died 2 days later. The day of the will reading was a performance I'll never forget. Sharon and Andrew sat in Mr. Harrison's plush office, vibrating with anticipation. When he read that the house and the bulk of the liquid assets were being donated to the university's historical society, Sharon's face turned white. When he read that a $250,000 trust was established for Andrew, her color returned. And when he read that I, Jennifer, was the sole trustee, her jaw dropped. But she doesn't know anything about money," Sharon protested. "On the contrary," Mr. Harrison said coolly. "Your mother's notes indicate Jennifer is the only one who knows anything about responsibility. And now, the forfeiture clause." He read it aloud. The dense, ironclad legalese that detailed how any unauthorized, frivolous, or fraudulent withdrawal by Andrew would void the entire trust. Andrew had been texting, not even listening. But Sharon listened, and I saw in her eyes that she didn't hear a warning. She heard a challenge. She thought she could find a way around it. She thought she could work on me, her rock, and wear me down. For 2 years, she had tried. Every few weeks, there was a new business idea from Andrew, the aspiring crypto day trader. "He just needs a small investment, Jen, $10,000. He can turn it into 100,000. "The trust forbids it, Mom. It's frivolous." "It's not frivolous. It's his future. You're just jealous. You've always been jealous of his potential." The arguments were exhausting. They chipped away at me. I started keeping the trust's debit card, which I'd only ever used once, to pay a single, verified tuition bill, in a hidden part of my wallet, terrified one of them would try to take it. But I never imagined Andrew would sneak into my home while I was sick and do it. Now, 3 days after the theft, I was finally over the flu. My righteous anger had cooled and settled into a hard, calm resolve. The apartment was clean, and I had disinfected everything Andrew had touched. I was sitting at my antique desk, one of the few things my grandmother had left me personally, when my phone buzzed. It was an email from Mr. Harrison. Subject: meeting scheduled. "Jennifer, I have received the bank statements and transaction records. The purchases are flagrant. I have scheduled a meeting at my office for tomorrow, Friday, at 10:00 a.m. I have summoned your mother and brother. Their attendance is mandatory. Please be prompt." I closed the laptop. I felt a strange, hollow calm. This wasn't just about Andrew's business ideas anymore. This was about Sharon. She was the true antagonist. Andrew was just her poorly aimed weapon. She was a real estate agent, a profession built on high-gloss polish and convincing people to buy things they couldn't afford. She had sold Andrew a fantasy of a life without consequences, and she'd been trying to make me pay the commission. I thought about her on the phone, her voice so breezy. "Andrew is going to swing by. He's got a surprise for you." She knew. She must have known. She was probably the one who encouraged him, who told him which card to take. "It's fine, honey," I could hear her saying. "It's your money anyway. Jen's just being difficult. Just take it and pay her back. She'll get over it." They thought this was another family drama they could win by shouting the loudest, by making me feel the most guilt. They didn't realize this was no longer a family discussion. It was a legal proceeding, and I was no longer coming as their daughter or their sister. I was coming as the trustee of the GM Legacy Trust. The shift from passive victim to active strategist was as simple as changing my clothes. On Thursday, I was a flu-ridden mess in a bathrobe. On Friday morning, I was an archivist on a mission. I dressed in my work attire, a pressed silk blouse, dark gray trousers, and a black blazer. I pulled my hair back into a severe, tight bun. I looked, I thought with a grim smile, exactly like my grandmother. I spent the hour before the meeting preparing. My investigation wasn't difficult. Mr. Harais N had already handled the legal side, subpoenaing the records. My job was to assemble the narrative. As an archivist, my superpower is organization. I find patterns in chaos. I take disparate, messy boxes of information and I build a clear, factual story. I went to my filing cabinet. From a locked box, I pulled the file marked GM Trust. Inside was a pristine, hardcover copy of the trust document itself. I placed sticky tabs on 3 key pages: the page naming me as trustee and outlining my fiduciary duty, the page detailing the only approved uses for the fund's education, primary residence, and of course, Section 4C, the forfeiture clause. Next, I logged into my laptop. Mr. Harrison had forwarded me the bank records. I printed them. The $9,000 spending spree was even more insulting in black and white. $2,450 at Solo luxury sneakers. A quick search revealed this was for 2 pairs of limited edition shoes. $1,899 at Apple Store. A new iPhone 15 Pro Max. $745 at Vibe Electronics. A 50-inch 4K TV. $1,200 at Luxmen. The hoodie plus several other items. And so on, right down to a $350 dinner at a high-end steakhouse. This wasn't a kid making a mistake. This was a calculated, decadent spree. He had treated the trust fund like a lottery win. Then I went deeper. I opened my family file. For the past 2 years, ever since Sharon had started her campaign of financial harassment, I had been keeping records. I printed the email from her, dated 6 months ago, with the subject line "Andrew's Big Idea," where she'd outlined his crypto plan and asked for a $10,000 loan from the trust. I printed my reply, where I had attached a PDF of the trust's frivolous spending clause and formally denied the request. I also printed the text message exchanges. "Sharon, Jen, Andrew's car broke down. He needs $1,500 for the repair. Please, honey, just this once." Me, Mom, the trust can't pay for that. I can send you $200 from my personal account to help. Sharon, you're heartless. You'd let your brother be stranded. I had a whole folder of these. This wasn't just about Andrew's theft. It was about proving a pattern of behavior. It was about proving, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that both Andrew and Sharon were fully aware of the trust's rules. They knew, they just didn't care. They thought the rules didn't apply to them. This was my clever trap, the leverage my grandmother had given me. It wasn't just the clause itself. It was the proof that they knew the clause existed and chose to ignore it. The theft wasn't just impulsive, it was premeditated. Andrew didn't just stumble upon the card. He'd been hunting for it, and Sharon had been his spotter. I gathered all the papers: the trust document, the bank statements, the store receipts Mr. Harrison had acquired, and my own printouts of our past conversations. I three-hole punched everything and placed it all in a sleek 1-inch black binder. On the spine, I printed a simple label: Trust, Violation 4C. As I snapped the binder shut, I felt a profound sense of calm. This was my armor, my shield. In an archive, the document is the final word. It doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about your excuses. It just is. The facts are immutable. I looked at the clock. 9:30 a.m., time to go. I walked out of my apartment, my heels clicking on the hardwood floor. I was no longer a victim. I was no longer the rock. I was the executor. My grandmother had given me one final, difficult task: to protect her legacy from the very people she loved. And as I drove to Mr. Harrison's office, I felt the weight of her conviction settle on my shoulders. I was not just doing this for myself. I was doing it for her. I was honoring her final wish. The investigation was over. The confrontation was about to begin. Mr. Harrison's office was on the 14th floor, a hushed, wood-paneled world that smelled of old books and expensive coffee. His secretary, a kind older woman named Mrs. Davis, gave me a sad, knowing smile. "They're already in the conference room, dear," she whispered. "Mr. Harrison is waiting for you." I pushed open the heavy oak door. The room was dominated by a long, polished mahogany table. Mr. Harrison sat at the head, a picture of legal authority. And on the far side, looking small and out of place, were Sharon and Andrew. Sharon was dressed in her best real estate agent attire, a bright red power suit that seemed to scream, "I'm in charge." But her face was pale, and her fingers were nervously shredding a tissue in her lap. Andrew was slouched in his chair, wearing one of his new designer hoodies, his arms crossed, staring sullenly at the table. He looked up when I entered, his eyes wide with a mixture of defiance and, for the first time, a flicker of fear. "Jennifer, thank you for coming," Mr. Harrison said, his voice booming in the quiet room. "Please sit." I took the seat directly opposite them, on Mr. Harrison's right. I placed my black binder on the table with a quiet, definitive thud. The sound echoed slightly. Andrew flinched. Sharon's eyes narrowed, zeroing in on the binder's spine. "Now," Mr. Harrison began, steepling his fingers, "we are here to discuss a grave matter. On the night of October 28th, a sum total of $9,194 was withdrawn from the GM Legacy Trust via the trust's debit card." "It was a misunderstanding," Sharon immediately interjected, her voice high and strained. "Andrew was going to pay it all back. He just got a little overeager with an investment. Jennifer knows this. She's just being vindictive because she's always been jealous of him." I said nothing. I simply opened my binder. "Sharon, I must ask you to remain silent until I am finished," Mr. Harrison said, his tone icy. "This is not a family discussion. This is a legal review of a breach of trust." "Andrew," he said, fixing my brother with a stare, "did you or did you not take the debit card from your sister's purse and make these purchases?" Andrew sank lower in his chair, his face flushing red. "She wasn't using it," he mumbled. "It's my money anyway. Grandma left it for me." "Wrong," I said. My voice was low and clear, and it silenced the room. Both of them stared at me. "What did you say?" Sharon snapped. I turned to the first tab in my binder. "I said, wrong," I repeated, looking directly at Andrew. "Grandmother did not leave you any money. She left money in a trust that I am legally bound to manage according to her explicit written instructions. It is not your money. It is the trust's money, and you, as the beneficiary, have zero access to it until you are 30, unless I approve a withdrawal for education or housing. That is the law." "Don't you dare quote the law at us, Jennifer." Sharon stood up, her chair scraping back. "This is a family matter. You're trying to steal your brother's inheritance." "On the contrary, Sharon," Mr. Harrison cut in, his voice sharp as a razor. "Jennifer is the only person in this room protecting that inheritance, or rather she was." He picked up a sheaf of papers. "These are the bank statements, and these are the store receipts. Solo luxury sneakers. Luxmen. Andrew, would you categorize these purchases as educational expenses? Andrew said nothing, just stared at his new, very expensive shoes. This is ridiculous, Sharon huffed, sitting back down. So he made a mistake, he's just a kid. He'll apologize, we'll pay the money back, and you can just unfreeze the card. Jennifer, tell him we'll pay it back. I'll get a loan. It doesn't matter, I said softly. What do you mean, it doesn't matter? She demanded. I turned to the second tab in my binder and pushed it across the table toward them. It was the printout of the email from 6 months ago. My email, formally denying their request for crypto money with the relevant clause from the trust attached. You knew the rules, I said, my voice void of all emotion. You knew the trust forbade frivolous spending. You knew I, as trustee, had already denied this exact type of withdrawal, and you did it anyway. That makes this mistake, as you call it, not just a mistake. It makes it fraud. The word fraud hung in the air. Andrew's head snapped up. Sharon went white. Fraud, she whispered. You wouldn't send your own brother to jail, would you? I don't have to, I said. I turned to the final tab in my binder. I slid it out, a single, pristine page. You're still forgetting about Grandma. You thought this was about me. You thought you just had to bully me. You forgot about Section 4C. I pushed the page in front of them. Mr. Harrison, I said, would you please read the forfeiture clause, the one you read to them 2 years ago, the one they both signed a document acknowledging. Mr. Harrison put on his glasses. He picked up the page. As he read the dense, unforgiving legal text, any fraudulent, unauthorized, or frivolous withdrawal shall immediately and irrevocably void his entire claim to the trust principal. All the color drained from Sharon's face. Andrew's mouth fell open. He was finally understanding. Wait, void, Andrew stammered, his eyes wide with panic. Void what, like the 9,000? No, Andrew, I said, closing my binder. Void everything, the $250,000, all of it, it's gone. Sharon's reaction was terrifying. A low, strangled sound came from her throat. No, she whispered. No, you're lying, that's not real, it's a bluff. It's just a scare tactic Grandma set up. Mr. Harrison, tell her she can't do this. Mrs. Stone, Mr. Harrison said, his voice laced with pity. I am the one who drafted this document at your mother's request. I can assure you, it is no bluff. As of 2:05 a.m. on October 28th, the moment the first unauthorized transaction was proved, Andrew forfeited his entire inheritance. As the trustee, Jennifer has no choice but to execute this clause. If she didn't, she herself would be in breach of her fiduciary duty. The room was silent. Andrew looked like he was going to be sick. Sharon just stared at the document, her entire world visibly collapsing. The polished, manipulative real estate agent was gone, replaced by a desperate, cornered woman. So what happens now? Andrew whispered, his voice trembling. Where does the money go? As per your grandmother's instructions, Mr. Harrison said, the full principal of the trust, minus the 9,000 you stole, will be immediately liquidated and transferred. The entire sum will be donated to the Grace M. Historical Preservation Fund at the university, the very one Jennifer helps to manage. So it is you, Sharon shrieked, launching to her feet and pointing a trembling finger at me. You did steal it. You tricked him. You set him up so you could get all the money for your dusty old books. Her threats were so poorly executed, so nonsensical, that I almost felt sorry for her. I don't get a penny, Mom, I said, standing up. I am a salaried employee of the university. This money goes to the fund, not to me. It will be used to restore historical buildings, just like Grandma always wanted. I get nothing, and he gets exactly what he deserves. You both did. You thought you were so clever. You thought you could break the rules, but you just forgot what the rules were. I picked up my binder. Mr. Harrison, I believe my work here is done. I have fulfilled my duty as trustee. Indeed, you have, Jennifer, he said, nodding. Exemplary work. I walked toward the door, my heels clicking. Jennifer, wait, Sharon cried, her voice breaking into a desperate sob. Please, you can't let this happen. He's your brother. He's just a kid. You'll ruin his life. I stopped at the door, my hand on the knob. I turned to look at them. Andrew was crying, fat, silent tears rolling down his cheeks. Sharon was a complete wreck, her mask of superiority shattered. He ruined his own life, Mom, I said, my voice cold and final. And you gave him the keys to do it. The consequences are yours to share. I opened the door and walked out, leaving them alone in the conference room with the ruins of their greed. I thought walking out of that office would be the end of it. I thought the cold, hard finality of the law would be enough. I was wrong. The next 48 hours were a siege. My family, it turned out, did not respect the law. They only respected leverage. The first volley was from Sharon. She went into full-blown desperation mode. The texts and voicemails started before I even got home. They were a rapid-fire progression through the stages of her manipulative grief. First came the bargaining. Jen, honey, I've talked to Andrew. He's going to sell everything. The shoes, the TV, we can get most of the money back. If we show Mr. Harrison we're making it right, he can reverse it. Call him. Tell him it was a mistake. I deleted it. Mr. Harrison couldn't reverse an irrevocable trust. Then came the guilt. I can't believe you would do this to your own family. After all I've done for you. I put a roof over your head. Your grandmother would be ashamed of you, Jennifer. She would be rolling in her grave. This one made me laugh, a short, bitter bark. My grandmother would be applauding. Finally came the threats. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. This is theft. You tricked him. You conspired with Harrison to steal that money. I will take you to court. I will tell everyone what you did. You will be ruined. This, I knew, was her real estate agent bravado. She had no lawyer. She couldn't afford one. Andrew, meanwhile, was trying a different tactic. He was trying to appeal to the big sister he had stolen from. His texts were pathetic. Jen, I'm so sorry. I messed up. I really messed up. Mom is going crazy. Please, I'll do anything. I'll get a job. I'll pay you back, I swear. Don't let them take my future away. Please, Jen, you're the only one who can fix this. You're the only one who can fix this. The old, familiar refrain. My entire life, I had been the family fixer. The responsible one. The one who cleaned up their messes. They just couldn't comprehend that I was. Done. I turned my phone on silent. The real escalation came the next day. I was at work, deep in the university archives, cataloging a set of 19th century letters. The archives are my sanctuary, a climate-controlled, soundproofed vault of facts. No one could get to me there, or so I thought. My office phone rang. It was the front desk. Ms. Stone, your mother is here. She seems very upset. My blood ran cold. She cannot be here, Barbara. This is a secure area. I told her that, but she's making quite a scene in the main library. She's demanding to see you. I sighed, pinching the bridge of my nose. I'm on my way. I walked out into the grand, cathedral-like main hall of the library, and there she was. Sharon. Her red power suit was rumpled, her makeup was smeared, and her hair was a mess. She was standing at the main circulation desk, shouting at a poor student worker. I know she's in there. Tell her to come out. This is my daughter. Mom, I said, my voice echoing in the vast space. She spun around. The moment she saw me, her face crumpled and she launched into her final, most powerful performance, the public breakdown. Jennifer, she wailed, rushing toward me and grabbing my arms. Students looked up from their books. Jennifer, you have to stop this. You are destroying us. You are destroying your brother. Mom, you are making a scene, I said, my voice low, trying to pull my arms free. You need to leave. This is my workplace. I don't care. I won't leave until you fix this, she sobbed, clinging to me. He's a good boy, Jen. He made a mistake. You can't ruin his whole life over a mistake. And there it was. The word that had protected him his entire life. The magic eraser for all his transgressions. He wasn't a criminal. He was just a kid who made a mistake. I stopped pulling. I looked my mother dead in the eyes. Her face was a mask of tragic desperation, but her eyes were hard and calculating. She was using this, all of it. The public humiliation, the tears, she was trying to break me. A mistake, I said, my voice quiet but carrying, is spilling a cup of coffee. A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill. Sneaking into your sister's home, stealing her debit card, and spending $9,000 on luxury goods isn't a mistake. It's a crime. How dare you, she hissed, her tears miraculously drying up. And it's not me who is ruining his life, I continued, my voice getting stronger. It's you. You are the one who told him he was entitled to that money. You are the one who told him rules don't apply to him. You're the one who told him to come to my apartment, aren't you? You probably told him which card to take. You thought it was my personal savings, didn't you? You thought I'd just roll over and cry and you'd promise to pay me back later. You had no idea you were telling him to trigger a legal document you signed 2 years ago. Her face went slack. The shock of being so thoroughly, so accurately seen, it silenced her. The case is built, Mom. Mr. Harrison filed the petition. It's done. You triggered the forfeiture clause. You did this, not me. I turned to the student worker. Please call campus security. My mother is trespassing. You wouldn't, she whispered, her voice trembling with genuine shock. Watch me. I turned my back on her and walked back toward the secure doors of the archive. I didn't look back, not even when I heard her start to wail again, a different sound this time. It wasn't a performance. It was the raw, ugly sound of defeat. The spell was broken. The fixer had clocked out. The final showdown wasn't in a public place. It was, perhaps fittingly, in the one place my family had always felt most superior to me, my own apartment. A week had passed since the library incident. I had security escort me to my car for 2 days, but then the calls and texts stopped. The silence was heavy, unnerving. Mr. Harrison had informed me that the court had approved the petition. The funds were already in motion, being transferred to the university's preservation fund. It was, legally, over. But I knew it wasn't, not for them. They showed up on a Sunday afternoon. I heard them before I saw them, arguing in the hallway outside my door. Then, a sharp, frantic knock. Not Andrew's lazy rap, not Sharon's insistent pounding. This was a knock of pure panic. I looked through the peephole. It was both of them. Sharon looked terrible. She was visibly smaller, aged 10 years and a week. Andrew was beside her, his face pale and puffy. I opened the door. I didn't say, "Come in." I just opened it and stood there, blocking the entryway. "Jennifer," Sharon began, her voice hoarse. We got a letter from the court. It's real. The money is gone." "Yes," I said. "I know. It was transferred on Friday." You let it happen?" Andrew's voice was a shocked squeak. He was staring at me as if I were a stranger. "You really just let it go?" "There was nothing to let, Andrew," I said, leaning against the doorframe. "It's an irrevocable trust. The moment you entered the PIN, the process began. I just filed the paperwork." "You could have lied," Sharon shrieked, her old fire returning for a second. "You could have told Harrison you made the purchases. You could have protected him." "Protected him?" I asked, and for the first time my own voice rose. "Protected him? I have been protecting him his entire life, Mom. From what? From consequences. I've protected him from bad grades, from angry neighbors, from debt collectors, from his own stunning incompetence. I've been his shield. And what did it get me? A brother who thinks it's okay to steal from me while I'm sick in bed. What did it get him? A 21-year-old kid who has never worked a day in his life, who has 0 skills, and who just threw away a $250,000 safety net on sneakers. Don't you talk about him like that. Sharon lunged forward, but I didn't flinch. No, you're going to listen. Both of you came here, you're going to listen. I pointed a finger at Andrew. You're not a crypto trader. You're not an influencer. You're an unemployed college dropout living off his mother, who in turn is living off her daughter. You're a leech. And you, I said, turning to my mother, you're the one who raised him to be this way. You're the one who told him he was a genius, that he was special, that he deserved the world, and that boring, responsible Jennifer should be the one to pay for it. You ruined him, Mom, not me, you. They were both stunned into silence, shocked by the venom. The quiet, mousy archivist was gone. The money is gone, I said, my voice dropping back to a cold, flat calm. It's all in the university fund. It's going to restore the old clock tower and repair the 18th century manuscripts. It's going to do what Grandma wanted, preserve something of value. Andrew just shook his head, a single tear tracing a path down his cheek. My life was of value, he whispered. Then you should have valued it, I replied. You should have read the document, you should have listened. You should have, for once in your entitled life, not been a selfish, greedy child. And then, the final, triumphant moment. Andrew, my brother, the golden child, turned to our mother. His face, which had always been full of arrogance, was now just empty, empty and angry. You told me it would be fine, he said, his voice shaking. You told me she was just bluffing. You told me it was my money. You told me to take it. Andrew, baby, I thought, Sharon stammered, reaching for him. You thought, he screamed, pulling away from her. You thought, you cost me everything, you ruined my life. I was trying to help you, she cried. You never help me, you just make things worse. He turned and stormed down the hallway, slamming his fist against the wall as he went. He didn't look back. Sharon stood there, frozen, watching him go. She had lost. She had lost the money, but more importantly, she had lost him. The adoring, dependent, golden child she had built her entire identity around. He was gone, and he finally saw her for what she was, the architect of his ruin. She turned back to me, her face a hollow mask of despair. She opened her mouth, then closed it. There was nothing left to say. There were no more threats, no more tears, no more manipulation that could work. I just looked at her. Goodbye, Mom, I said. And for the second time in my life, I closed the door on a member of my family, finally and completely at peace. The downfall of Sharon and Andrew was not a dramatic explosion. It was a slow, quiet collapse, like a house sinking into its own foundation. Andrew, stripped of his inheritance and now viewing his mother as the poison in his well, did the one thing I never thought possible. He left. He packed a bag, sold his new sneakers and iPhone for a fraction of what he'd paid, and bought a bus ticket. He went to live with our aunt, my father's sister, in another state. The last I heard, she was making him work a manual labor job, waking up at 5 a.m. every day. For the first time in his life, he was facing the cold, hard reality of existing without a safety net. Whether he would learn from it, I didn't know. But he was, at least, out of my orbit. Sharon's ruin was more profound. Her entire world had revolved around the fantasy of Andrew's future success, a success she believed was guaranteed by my grandmother's money. With the money gone and Andrew blaming her for it, her purpose evaporated. Her work as a real estate agent suffered. She was too distracted, too bitter, to maintain the glossy, optimistic facade her job required. Clients dried up. She missed payments on her condo. 6 months after our final confrontation, she was forced to sell it and move into a small, bleak rental apartment. She tried to reconcile, of course. She sent me a long, rambling email full of excuses, self-pity, and half-hearted apologies. I've lost everything, Jennifer. You were right. I just wanted the best for him. I read it, and then I moved it to the family folder in my archive, and I did not reply. As for me, my life blossomed in their absence. A great, heavy weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying had been lifted. My apartment was truly mine. My money was my own. My time was my own. I was no longer the family fixer, and the freedom was intoxicating. About a month after the funds were settled, I received a formal letter from the university's chancellor. It was an invitation to a small ceremony. I went, curious. At the ceremony, they unveiled a plaque on the newly restored grand portico of the main library. It read, "These restorations were made possible by a generous donation from the Grace M. Historical Preservation Fund." My boss, the head of the archives, found me after. "Jennifer," he said, shaking my hand warmly, "we all heard what you did, the way you upheld the integrity of that trust. It was remarkable. Your grandmother would be incredibly proud." I looked up at the plaque, the stone clean and bright, the letters carved deep. He was right. She would be. I'd had dinner with Mr. Harrison a few weeks prior. He had insisted on taking me out to celebrate. Over dessert, he'd looked at me with a sad smile. "Your grandmother was a very, very smart woman," he said. "She knew this would happen. She knew from the day Andrew was born that he and Sharon would try to burn through her legacy. She didn't just write that forfeiture clause to protect the money, Jennifer." "What do you mean?" I asked. "She wrote it to protect you. She knew it was the only way to ever set you free." He was right. It was her final gift to me. It wasn't money or a house. It was a choice. It was the legal, ironclad permission I needed to finally stop being their rock and start being my own person.